Today, we are talking about 7 rare habits of parents who raise children that don't just perform well, but actually thrive. And the difference is smaller and darker than most people think. If this is your first time here, this channel is dedicated to understanding the hidden patterns that shape human behavior. Patterns most people never talk about. Hit subscribe and make sure you don't miss what's coming next. Let me show you what I mean. Let me tell you about a kid named Daniel. By every measurable standard, Daniel was exceptional. Straight A's. High IQ. Teachers loved him. His parents proudly called him their greatest achievement. But Daniel had never been allowed to lose at anything. When he failed, his parents fixed it. When he cried, they shut it down. When he wanted to quit a sport he hated because they had chosen it for him, they told him winners don't quit. Daniel graduated top of his class. Then he got his first real job and fell apart. He couldn't handle criticism. He had never learned how. He couldn't read a room, make small talk, or recover from a conflict with a coworker. Every setback felt like annihilation because no one had ever taught him that failure was survivable. He was 24 years old, brilliant, and completely emotionally unprepared for the world. His parents had done everything right on paper. What they missed had nothing to do with grades. Daniel's parents missed every single one of these 7 habits. And the cost was invisible for years, until it wasn't. Starting with the first. They let their children feel the pain. Most parents, when they see their child hurting, do everything in their power to make the pain stop. And that instinct comes from love. No one doubts that. But mentally strong parents do something that feels almost counterintuitive.
They stay.
They sit with their child inside the discomfort instead of rushing to remove it. They teach their kids to name what they feel. Not to escape it, not to suppress it, but to look at it and say, this is what is happening inside me right now. Because here is what the research shows. Emotions that are never felt do not disappear. They go underground. They get stored in the body, in the nervous system, in patterns of behavior the person doesn't even understand as an adult. The child who is always told you are fine grows up to be the adult who has no idea why they shut down in conflict, or why they explode over small things, or why intimacy feels so uncomfortable. Daniel's parents were experts at this. Every time he cried, the message was clear. That is not welcome here. So he learned to hide it. And hiding it cost him everything later. Strong parents understand that an emotion has to be felt to be healed. They reflect it back, without judgment. They say things like, it sounds like you are really frustrated right now, or that must have felt really unfair. Not to fix it, just to witness it. That single habit changes the trajectory of a child's emotional life. The parent who always fixes the feeling is the one raising the adult who can't handle anything. They don't rescue their children from failure. Here is something most parents never hear. Failure is a neurological event. When a child struggles, makes a mistake, and then finds a way through it, the brain literally rewires itself. New pathways form. Resilience is not a personality trait. It is something that gets built, one failure at a time. Mentally strong parents understand this. So when their child falls, they resist the urge to catch them before they hit the ground. They let the fall happen, and then they help them get back up. This is not cruelty. This is the most important thing a parent can do. The alternative is what Daniel experienced. Every time something went wrong, someone else solved it. He never had to sit inside a problem long enough to develop the confidence that he could survive it. So when life finally handed him a situation no one could fix for him, he had nothing to draw from. There is a reason Einstein said he had not failed, he had just found 10,000 ways that did not work. Mentally strong parents teach that same mindset early, not by talking about it, but by stepping back and letting their child discover it through experience. The child who is never allowed to fail becomes the adult who is terrified of trying. They are willing to be the villain. This one is uncomfortable, because it goes against one of the deepest parental instincts there is. The desire to be loved by your child, to be seen as the good guy, to avoid the look of disappointment on their face. But mentally strong parents have made peace with something most parents haven't. Sometimes their child will be angry with them. Sometimes they will say, I hate you, or you are the worst parent ever.
And that is okay.
Because they understand that limits are not punishment. Consistency, structure, and boundaries are the foundation of psychological safety. A child who always gets what they want does not feel loved. They feel uncontained. And uncontained feels terrifying, even if they would never say that out loud. When a parent caves every time their child pushes back, the child learns two things. First, that boundaries are negotiable. Second, that their emotional reaction is powerful enough to control the adults around them. Neither of those lessons serves them well in the real world. The parent who needs to be liked raises a child who can never truly respect anyone, including themselves. They teach that relationships are hard on purpose. Most parents avoid talking about the difficulty of relationships. They let their children believe that love is effortless, that friendships are easy, that if something requires too much work it probably wasn't meant to be. And then those children grow up and discover that every meaningful relationship in their life requires negotiation, repair, patience, and the willingness to be wrong sometimes. And they have no tools for any of it. Mentally strong parents do something different. They are honest about relationships. They model empathy in front of their children. They let their kids see them disagree with a partner and then work through it. They show what an apology looks like when it is real. They demonstrate flexibility, accountability, and the ability to hold space for someone else's perspective even when it is hard. Because children do not learn how to be in relationships from what you tell them. They learn from what they watch you do. Every interaction you have in front of your child is a lesson. The question is only what lesson you are teaching. They protect the emotional environment. You buckle your child into a car seat. You check what they're doing online. You make sure they eat well and sleep enough. Physical safety is non-negotiable, and every parent understands that. But mentally strong parents extend that same seriousness to something less visible: the emotional environment inside the home. Chronic conflict between parents, emotional volatility, untreated mental health issues, substance use. These are not just bad memories a child will eventually get over. Research shows they literally alter the developing nervous system. A child raised in an environment of persistent emotional threat learns to live in a state of hypervigilance. That state becomes their baseline, and they carry it into every relationship, every workplace, every quiet moment of their adult life. This does not mean the home has to be perfect. It means the emotional climate has to be taken seriously with the same urgency as any physical danger. Your child does not need a perfect home, but they need a safe one, emotionally. They don't live through their children. This one is the hardest to see in yourself because it almost always comes disguised as love and ambition. The parent who pushes their child toward a particular career. The one who insists on a specific sport, a specific image, a specific kind of success. The one who says, "I just want what is best for you," while steering every decision toward what they themselves always wanted. Mentally strong parents have done the uncomfortable work of separating their own dreams from their child's life. They accept something genuinely painful. Their child is not their legacy project. Their child is a separate human being, born with their own gifts, their own curiosity, their own path. When a parent cannot make that separation, the child grows up performing. Always performing. Achieving for an audience of one. And when the applause stops, or when they finally get the thing their parent wanted for them and feel nothing, the emptiness is profound. The child raised to live their parents' dreams spends their adult life grieving their own. They coach. They don't rescue. The final habit is probably the most difficult to practice consistently, because it requires the parent to tolerate their own discomfort, not just their child's. When a child is struggling, the instinct to step in is overwhelming. And mentally strong parents feel that instinct too. The difference is what they do with it. They let the child sit inside the difficulty for long enough to start developing their own response to it. They resist the urge to solve, to smooth over, to make it easier. And then, when the moment is right, they don't rescue. They coach. They ask questions. They offer perspective. They walk alongside instead of carrying. There is a fundamental difference between telling a child, "I will handle this for you," and showing them how to handle it themselves. One creates dependence. The other builds a human being who trusts their own capacity to face hard things. Every time you save your child from a hard moment, you are sending them a message. The message is, "I don't believe you can handle this." And children are paying attention. They internalize that message. And eventually they believe it. Remember Daniel? He is now 31 years old. He still tests in the top percentile for intelligence. He still impresses people in the first 5 minutes of any conversation. But he has been through 3 jobs in 4 years. 2 relationships that ended the same way, with the other person saying they felt like they could never really reach him. He is in therapy now, doing the hard work of unlearning patterns that were set in motion before he was old enough to understand what was happening to him. He is not broken, but he is rebuilding something that should have been built a long time ago. And here is the part that stays with me. Daniel does not blame his parents. He knows they loved him. He knows they were proud of him. He knows they did what they believed was right. But love without these 7 habits is incomplete. It protects the child from pain in the short term and leaves them exposed to something far worse later. Daniel's story is not rare. It is just rarely talked about. These 7 habits are not complicated, but they are hard. They require a parent to sit with discomfort, to resist instinct, to think long-term when everything in the moment is pulling toward the short-term fix. They require you to ask not just is my child happy right now, but who is my child becoming? Most parents never ask that question. Not because they don't care, but because no one ever showed them how. If you saw yourself in any part of this video, whether as the parent or as the child who was raised without these habits, that recognition matters. That awareness is where change begins. If this video made you think, leave a comment telling me which of the 7 habits hit closest to home. I read every single one. And if you want to go deeper into the patterns that shape who we become, the video on screen right now is exactly where you should go next.